I wanted to review some of the newer photos. So I might start off with this one. I don't believe I have reviewed this one yet. So this one is from Cassandra Robinson, and ooh, I like. Now I will point out a couple of things. This is a beautiful set by Cassandra. I actually really like it. The first thing that I notice when I look at it is that in this area here, you can see that the lashes are hanging down slightly. Like that was literally the first thing that popped into my eyes, just because it narrows down the eyes slightly in that area. Now that might be due to her not brushing her eyes 100%, the lashes properly in this area, or it might be because they're just slightly heavier, or it might be because the follicles are sitting slightly lower. So it's very difficult to tell. I can see that in this area here, there is one lash kind of sweeping down. Again, it could be a follicle. I don't think there's lashes on that one. No, I don't believe so. Now, another thing that I notice is if I look at her eyes, so I always like to compare, and you know that if you have seen my videos prior, so you have the width of your own eye here, and you have the width here. So what I always try and do is literally measure it on the screen. Oops. So I will go like, I hold my pencil there. You can't see it because you're watching the recording. But if I have a look at it, her eyes look very even, and the space in between her eyes is almost the width of her eye. So she is, even though she looks a little bit wide set, I don't believe she is. Let me see. No, she's pretty spot on. So she does look slightly wide set, and I think the reason why she looks slightly wide set is because her own natural eye shape, especially on this eye, so the one where I have my mouse right now, it's just looking slightly more bulgy in this area. She has a lot of rounded waterline on the bottom. Can you see that? And it looks like it's slightly whiter, and this is why it's drawing the eyes out slightly more. Okay, her lashes also look like they're growing out a little bit different than what they are on the other eye. So that's the first thing that I noticed. It also looks a little bit shorter because of that, her left eye, and it looks like it's slightly tilted upwards as well. Can you see that, guys? It's just the way that her waterline is sitting, and it's bulging out, and it's thicker than it is on the other eye. Now when it comes to the styling, I think if I look at just her left eye, so this eye here, I think her styling is very spot on. Now if you look at this eye, it looks like it's drawing it out slightly, but because her eye is a little bit more tilted on this one than it is on this, like this one looks a little bit more almond shaped, this one looks like it's a bit more rounded in the bottom, but all in all it looks slightly tilted up. It just looks like the styling is different on this eye, so it draws it out more that way, while this eye is just beautiful. So this is just what I noticed with this one. I think the styling is still nice, but if you notice these kinds of little bits and pieces, you can really try and make things, like especially if you're entering a competition and stuff like that, you need to try and make that eye seem a bit more narrow in the outer corner, and you can do that by, I guess you have to slightly shorten the outer corner, even though it might be exactly the same length that she used in it. Here looks slightly longer. Do you guys agree? So I think Cassandra did a really fabulous job. I really love the styling on her. This is my favorite side though. And that is only because she probably hasn't taken into consideration just the way that her eye is sitting. Now you can also see how there's quite a bit more white. So all in all, this eye is just slightly more rounded in the outer corner, and it looks, because her pupil is sitting higher, it looks slightly more feline, right? Now I have one from Alexandria Piquet. I hope I say that correctly. Okay. I always try and imagine the person without the lashes first. It's very difficult, but I mean, if you have a client coming in, the first thing you need to do is sit them down, sit them nice and straight, and take a photo right from the front. Go around them, have a look at the lashes from the side, go around them, have a look at the lashes from the other side, so that you can see whether they are growing straight, down, or if they are curled up, you can also lift up the eye slightly so you can see where the follicles are sitting and how many layers of lashes they actually have. Styling is one of my most favorite things in the world. That's why I always like to do these types of things too, because I see things very, very clearly and other people may not, and this is why I like to point these things out. But yeah, imagine this person here had no lashes on. Would this person be slightly wide set? I don't know. Let's have a look. Or is it because the lashes are slightly longer on the outer corner? Actually, if this client had no lashes on at all, she would look like she has really, really tiny eyes. Do you guys agree? Let me see. I measure again on my screen. So I'm measuring from the inner corner right to the last bit of the white. So from here to here, see if it's the same from here to here, and then see if it fits into the middle. I have a feeling it might be very, very slightly wide set, but again, it could be because the lashes are drawing it out slightly. So let's see. So her eyes are actually the same width. So this eye and this eye are exactly the same width. So let's see. Yep. So she is slightly wide set naturally. Ever so slightly, probably only about, let's say it's probably about maybe a couple of millimeters wider, okay, naturally. So what we want to avoid on those types of people is to draw the eyes out even more. However, in her case, if she didn't have lashes that were slightly longer and slightly elongating, maybe not right on the outer corner, but kind of making more of a feline type look without having all the heaviness on the outer corner, she would have really, really tiny eyes. Now, again, imagine she had no lashes on whatsoever. Her eyes are really, really, really small. But she's lucky because her eyes are very almond and even slightly tilting upwards. Her eyes are very even and very level. So if you were to hold a ruler here to here and you slightly move down, her eyes are pretty bang on. Her eyebrows are sitting at the same level too. They're quite big eyebrows. So to have big eyebrows and really tiny eyes, we do need lashes, okay? Now, her styling on this side here, it looks like it's slightly more of a kitten style. So it's longer in this area and then it drops down. It might be because there's a couple of gaps in here. On this eye, it looks a lot smoother, but you can see how the length are dropping down. So imagine there was no heaviness in here. Just the very outer corner, and I always say that drop down your length in the outer corner, because as soon as you have length in the outer corner, it will look slightly droopy. Now our eyes, the natural shape of our eyes is rounded. So what you see from the front kind of rounds towards the back, right? So if you are standing in front of someone and you're looking at their lashes, you cannot actually, if they are wearing eyelash extensions, see the very last like 2 to 3 lashes. I would put something really tiny on it, because as soon as you put longer length on it, it will look slightly droopy. Now, lucky for her, it's not super droopy because her eyes are naturally nicely elongated, even though they're small eyes, and they are like slightly slanted upwards, tiny bit. So on those types of clients, you can have a little bit more length on the outer corner without making it look too, droopy. I think though that she should have kept it just a tiny bit shorter, only because it's drawing out the eyes a little bit. It is not very obvious, and a normal person would say they're nice lashes, which they are. But to me, I see every single detail. I would have kept it a tiny bit shorter. And I also would have tried something with a little bit less volume, something a tiny, tiny bit less heavy for her eyes. Because her eyes are very small, it kind of shuts down the eyes slightly because of all the depth and darkness in here. I would have liked to see maybe 3 to 4D set. It looks like it's just slightly heavier. If I was to say which side is my favorite, I think they're both nice. This one looks like it's slightly more coming up and then slanting down more. Both sides need a little bit less length. I like this side better, just because it has a little bit more of a flick pointing towards the arch. Okay, I can't really review the styling in this case because I can't see the entire face, but I can already see that the outer corner is too long just because it's drooping down slightly, and also there's a disconnect in here. and then it's getting a little bit smoother. I think the fanning work looks pretty nice. I would just be careful, just because you can see how some of those lashes are already droopy a little bit. Means they are usually a bit too heavy, and they should not have a fan right on the bottom layer, especially if the bottom layer is growing out a little bit. But styling wise, I can't really comment on it. These are just a few things that I noticed. I think the fanning work is quite nice and even. Looks like it's 0.05 and like a C curl coming into a D, could be even a D curl, yeah, and just a little bit too heavy on the outer corner. Very, very difficult for me to comment on, unfortunately. Felicia, let's see. Okay, this is again difficult. Well, I've got to go like that because the client's lying down. The face shape changes completely when people are lying down. So if you're wanting to get your styling 100% spot on, and again, this is practice, of course, you need to have them sitting straight and sitting up, okay? Or you have them lying down both times when you take a photo, because the face relaxes, the eyes are slightly, they kind of fall back a little bit, and if you have them sitting up, you can really tell of what you should be doing. So it's very, very difficult. I can see that her fanning work is beautiful, but I don't know, it may be like slightly bit too long, but because her eyes, she's like looking up into the camera a little bit, it could be that her eyes look slightly more narrow than what they actually are. So I can't really comment on it. Again, with this one, I have to like go on the side. Again, she's looking upwards. She's not just looking straight up, but she's like, the camera is like here and she's like looking up a little bit like that. So with this one, again, she's lying down. I don't know whether her eyes, they look really little and kind of slitty. I don't think they would be like that if she was sitting up, yeah? Personally, I think they are just a bit too long and too curly, especially in this area here. And the coverage is a little bit uneven, and all the heaviness is concentrated on the outer corner. And I fear once she sits up that it will look a little bit too droopy for her. But again, if you have a picture where she's straight on, sitting up, send it through. And make sure you do not have your clients smile or lie down or look to the side or only have half of the face on it. I can't really help you with the styling that way. Let's do one more because I like this one. And I then want to show you actually what we have done in my last styling class, in my last advanced volume, like mega volume in styling, which I just recently finished over in Melbourne. We had 4 students. If I train in person, most of the time I actually have one-on-one classes, quite a lot of one-on-one, just because I feel like if I have more than 6 students at any one time, if I travel, I never have that many here. At the academy I have like between 1 and 4, because I just can't spend that much time on every single person individually, and I want to provide you with the best value possible. I had someone message me about it before, questioning why my class was only 4 people. I think they wanted 10 and not have anyone look over them. I don't know. I wanted to get into this styling, and I want to show you some pictures from Melbourne as well, where we did the styling with the 4 models, which I think worked out extremely well. I want to show you one of the hardest models I've ever had to do as a trainer as well, and then I'll show you the after as well. But before we do that, I review this one. Again, she's slightly sideways, slightly on the side, okay? The first thing I notice is that we have a lot of lift here, then we have a dip, and then we have a lot of lashes, which are making her look a slightly droopy. Her natural eye shape is a little bit like that too. So if we want to counteract that, we need to take that into consideration. The natural eye shape looks a little bit like that. So it's rounded and then it's flattening out a bit and then it's going back down, okay? So if we have an eye shape like this, where we have something rounded first, rounded first and then it's slightly flattening out, you need to take that into consideration when you're applying lashes. If you're just doing a C curl, it will follow that exact same thing, and eyelashes will lift our eye, not lift, our eyelashes will make something even stronger looking, yeah? It will magnify what we already have. So if we are applying lashes that are quite dark, this will look even more straight. Does that make sense? So if you are doing this eye, what you need to do for example, just as an example, if you're starting out with a lesser curl, you need to have a strong curl so that it comes up to the same area. Yeah, right in here, if you want to have a smooth line, okay? Otherwise, if you're applying the very same curl everywhere, it will look exactly the same. It'll look straight in this kind of area. Does it make sense? So we always want to counteract. So say if I had flat lashes here, I need to apply something stronger in curl, but also go up a millimeter, because a stronger curl from the front will, and from the side too, will just look a little bit shorter, even though it covers more area. But if you look from the side, it will look actually shorter. So if you want to have a C in 10 and make it look like a C in 10 and continue that way, you need to use like a D11, for example, okay? All right, so that was the first thing that I thought. And again, she's looking sideways, so her eye shape might change slightly. I think her eyes are not droopy naturally, but because the lashes are very long in the outer corner, they do look a little bit droopy. What I would do, and there's another picture here, let's see. Oh, she also has an eyeliner on. I can see that now. Why couldn't I see that beforehand? Let me see. You can hardly tell, but yeah, she has a permanent eyeliner tattooed as well, which kind of doesn't help the case. And if you notice, it goes rounded, and then here it's because she has her skin is actually sagging, so that will make it look even more straight because her skin is coming down so much. So if you were to lift her skin up like that, her lashes will automatically make the eye shape look a little bit differently. So we want to always work on covering up any hooded eyes, okay? So in this case, and again in this area too, I would start with maybe a C curl, and then from about here to here where it's hooded, from here to here, I would work with a longer curl, a D curl. Make sure it's not too curly though, otherwise it will get in the way of the hood of the skin. People like that are a lot harder to lash, just because if they don't have enough coverage with the darkness, you can still see the hood, and if you are kind of following the straight line, you will have dips in the lashes. All right, but this is something that I teach in my in-person training classes. It's very, very difficult for me to tell you in a 20-minute video. Now I want to share with you some of the girls that we did in the training, and I will tell you first of all, and of course I didn't lash those models, so they were lashed by my students. Let me find the first one. Okay, this one was very, very difficult, and I'll zoom you into one eye first. So can you see this model? She was a lovely, lovely girl, had actually great lashes to lash. They were very strong, but as you can see, her lashes are pretty straight. They're dead straight in the outer corner. And if you now look at her whole face, her eyes are very, very droopy, yeah? And don't leave any negative comments, you girls. This was a great case study to do because of her lashes and her eye shape, okay? And also her eyes are as well wide set. This is a very, very difficult case. We went through the whole scenario and I explained exactly which curls they should and shouldn't be using. And also we kept the outer corner extremely short. I think it was like 7 mil, 6 or 7 mil, and had a very strong curl on the outer corner and a lot lesser in the inner corner. We ended up with something that actually made her eyes look a lot less droopy. Now, if you were to put on this person, if you were to put lashes on her that are extremely long on the outer corner, you wouldn't make her look very, very sad, and she would not be happy with her lashes. So we need to try and lift the eye up as much as possible. And so with the styling help that I gave the student, and she did a great job, we ended up making her look like this. And I think this deserves a round of applause for finding the right styling, but also for the student to do this. She did an amazing job. Then we had this client here, and her eyes were slightly different. One was a smaller eye, one was a little bit bigger, as you can see, yeah. the one to my side here was slightly larger than the other side, and it was slightly wide set too, but we didn't really work on that sort of thing. So what we worked on is actually working with the dead straight lashes. Her lashes were growing downwards very, very strongly, and her lashes were not very strong either, and she didn't have very many of them. So what I did is I said, look, let's lift up her eye a little bit more because of them growing down, but we didn't go very long because her lashes were naturally not very strong. So I think the longest we used was a 10 and D. So this is what we did. So you can see from this to this, and I think again the student did a fabulous job doing this, and I think it looks amazing. So this is all I wanted to share today. I really hope that you learned a little bit from this. And again, with styling, you really only get better if you practice this on a daily basis and you look at people. This is what I used to do. I tell my students all the time. I go to a daycare center, or now at school, of course, or swimming lessons or gymnastics, wherever I take my kids, and I just look at people's eye shapes, and in my mind I try and correct it, and I always look at things that are slightly unbalanced, and I think, how can I balance it? It's no different to doing your makeup and contouring your face, right? If you want to have something look more hollow, you will have it darker. If you want something to come forward more, you will have it lighter. If you want to have something to look more up, you have it shorter. If you want it to look more down, you make it longer. Okay? If you have a hood, you try and cover it. Make sure you don't poke into the hood. If you have someone with really rounded eyes, you don't want to make them more excited. You want to calm it down slightly and perhaps elongate it. Yeah. So always look at people's face shapes and think of the worst case that you can fix. And if some things are like they have wide set eyes and they are droopy at the same time, it's like, ooh, this is difficult. And imagine they have a hood at the same time. So look at the first thing that you notice that you think, oh, I can fix that, or I can make it slightly better, and improve it with the way that I lash and because of the skills that you have. So let me know in the comments below if you got value from this video, because I really hope that you did, because I always try and aim at educating and give the best support possible. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all in the next one.